right, Bitcoin land. This is Coin Icarus, or Phil from the Fun with Bitcoin podcast, and I am going to do my best to show you guys how to set up a Raspiblitz Bitcoin / Lightning node in the easiest way possible using the Raspberry Pi 4 and the associated hardware. So a lot of times it seems confusing. It seems that this might be a bit of an overwhelming task because you're being asked to go out and buy specialized hardware. Of course, I'm not going to get into the multiple configurations. We are going to stick with the simplest configuration of using dedicated hardware. Okay, so with a Raspberry Pi 4 and a hard drive, okay, and an SD card, an LCD screen, power supply, and a fan. Okay, now I do have some other parts here because I just want to go through each of them, because for some of the people that are slightly more advanced, they may want to know about them, or they may see them on other people's nodes and not know what they are. So let's go through all the hardware, right? All right, so the first thing we have over here is we have the actual Raspberry Pi 4 board. Okay, so there's your Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, you've got your two USB 3.0s, you got your USB 2.0s, your network adapter, and this is where you put the microSD card. The microSD card is going to contain the operating system, so to speak, for your Raspiblitz. Okay, now there is also a hard drive, right? Or what we call a SSD, an SSD drive, right? Which is a solid state disk. Okay, there's no moving parts, which makes them ideal for something like this. Now, there's different ways of connecting this device to the Raspberry Pi 4. I have chosen the simplest one I can find, which is by using this Sabrent 3.1, it's the version Sabrent 3.1, SSD to USB. Okay, so that's what I'm using. But again, I do a lot of experimentation, and this I find is cheaper than going out and buying a case. Now, here is another type of hard drive that you can use. You can go out and buy one of these, at any electronics store for the most part, right? It's 1 gig, and this is just a standard external hard drive. This one's actually made by Seagate, and comes with the wire. Nothing special. I personally, I know it sounds stupid, I don't really like using them just because I like to have the smaller footprint, so you can actually see it's not as thick. Okay, what else do we got? Here we have the LCD screen. Okay, this is the LCD screen that you can purchase for the Raspiblitz. Very simple, and it mounts very, very easily onto the Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, so we're going to mount it like that so you guys can see that. Okay, all right, now you've got your power supply. The power supply is very important. Okay, this one came with my Raspberry Pi 4, and I don't know if you guys can actually see what the voltage is, but it is 5.1 volt at 3.5 amp. Okay, so you need to have a solid 3.0 amps out. Now, I do not suggest going out and buying a generic one. Get the one that is actually for the Raspberry Pi, or like I did, get the one from the Canna kit, because I have used generic ones in the past and they may seem to work, but sometimes there's a reason why they're cheaper. And I ended up having a lot of problems that seemed operating system related, okay, when in fact they were entirely power supply related, all because I tried to save a couple of bucks on the power supply. So no saving the bucks on the power supply, get the frickin' right one. Okay. Besides that, we have a USB fan. Now look, for fans, there's also a shim fan, okay, which is a tiny little thin fan. I don't particularly like it. It does work. I just find it a little flimsy. So anyways, I went out and bought an actual USB, USB fan. It's really, really strong. Unfortunately, you have to, jury rig it on. You got to manually mount it. It doesn't really come with any hardware for you to mount it properly on the Raspiblitz. So it's definitely going to be a MacGyver job. And for the people who don't know who MacGyver is, he used to be able to create solutions out of, avocados, ice picks, and snorkels. So, he's just kind of like a jack of all trades and a master of none, but in his case, he was a master. So, anyways, just kind of doing it all on your own. Now, what is this giant thing? Okay, so this, okay, is essentially, this is actually what they use in the Casa as well, but essentially what this is that this is an external power board for your SSD drive, okay? And the way that it would work, okay, is that you would have your drive mounted to the bottom of this device, and you would have your Raspberry Pi mounted on top of this device, okay, in this type of configuration. Now, as you could see, that creates a little more clearance, right? Creates a little bit more clearance. There's there's a little bit more height to it, so you most likely wouldn't be able to use just a standard Lightning shell that you would get. You'd most likely have to make some type of a custom case, but it's just good for you guys to know about this option, because you may end up building a node with it. So you never know. Okay, so there we go. This covers, last piece is the microSD card. Okay, the microSD card is what is going to load right here. So, okay, this is your operating system, and we are going to be working with this extensively on the computer in the next videos. So we're going to put that down here. The other piece that you're going to need most likely to connect to your laptop or your desktop is an SD adapter for the microSD. And the microSD card we suggest is a 32 gig. They're really cheap, so you may as well just stick to 32 gig. I've seen some people get 64 gig. Really, there's no point. 32 gig is what you can stick with. And it's very simple. You simply put the card inside the adapter, and now it's ready to go into your laptop or desktop. So that is the hardware overview for the Raspiblitz. In the next section, what we are going to do is we're going to talk about the software that you need to install on your laptop in order to get the Raspiblitz operating system image burned onto the microSD card, okay, and that you can start your installation. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to go and download a couple of pieces of software. Okay, and we're going to do that before we actually go and download the image. So the software that I use, and again, this is going to, there's different pieces of software you can use, but this is what I have used, and I found it to work. So Rufus, which is also like the piece of software called Balin Etcher, okay, which is the piece of software you're going to use to burn the image onto the microSD card, okay? Now, when you download the image, which we're going to start, so you're going to see, you're going to see where to go and what to do. But once you have the image downloaded, you're going to have to extract the image and decompress it. So what I like to use is a utility called 7-zip. And once you actually burn the image onto the Raspiblitz and power your Raspiblitz up, the way to communicate with it, first, is by connecting to it with a terminal window. And of course, people will give you all different types of pieces of software that you can use as terminal emulators. I like to use Putty. Okay, it's nice and easy, and you're going to see, how to actually go and do that. And then in the odd case that you decide to set up your Raspiblitz without using the LCD screen, you're not going to be able to see the IP address that gets assigned to it, and if that's the case, you may need a piece of software like Angry IP Scanner. So what I'm going to do is in the actual notes for the YouTube video, I'm going to provide links to all of this software. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to go to the Raspiblitz website. Okay, and let's get on over there. You can see I spend a lot of time on these sites. All right, so we are going to scroll down. Okay, once we get to Rootsol's GitHub page, which again, this is going to be included in the show notes. Okay, so we got to scroll down. We scroll down. And eventually we get over here, which is the SD image. So we are going to click on this to download our image. Okay, so a couple of things before we extract our files. Okay, we want to make sure that we have 7-zip installed. We want to make sure that we installed the Putty software. Okay, the Rufus file is just that's an executable file, so it'll run when you need to burn your image onto your micro SD card. Okay, and the Angry IP scanner, as I stated in the in the previous video, you only need that if you are not going to leverage the LCD screen, which means you will not be able to see what IP address you give, what IP address the network gives to your node. So if you have an LCD screen and you are leveraging that for your Raspiblitz, you don't need to worry because the IP address that your node receives from your network is going to appear on the screen. So we have 7-zip installed, we have Putty installed, okay? Now what we're going to do is that we are going to right-click this file. We're going to go to 7-zip, and we are going to, in my case, I'm extracting here. If you have a specific location you want to extract to, you can click Extract Files. It'll pop up a box. It'll show you a file system, and you can choose the location where you want it. I like to make it easy. I'm just going to extract it here in this folder. So we're going to do that. We're going to click Extract here. It's going to pop up a box, and now it's extracting. So as soon as this is done, because it does take some time, it turns a 2 gig file into a 7 gig file once it's extracted and decompressed. So as soon as this finishes, we are going to come back and move on to our next step of burning the 7 gig file that gets extracted to our microSD. And you can actually see here in real time, look, it's creating my image file right here. Be back. All right, so our image has completed extracting. If all went well, the 7-zip extractor will simply disappear once it completes. And in the location where you extracted your file to, you will see as you can see here, Raspiblitz. In my case, it's the 1.51 version, which is the latest one that's released. And you can see the size is 7.7 gigs. Okay, so our next step is going to be that we are going to put the micro SD card into the SD adapter, okay? And we are then going to plug that into in my case, the side of my laptop. In your case, it might be the front of your desktop, or you may have an SD card reader that reads multiple types of, the different types of SD cards, the micro SDs, the standard SDs. So in either case, okay? Now, like I mentioned before, there's 2 softwares that you can use that I know of for burning images onto SD and micro SD cards. In my case, we are going to be using Rufus. So I'm going to double click Rufus. Yep, sure. Give it access. And now the next step is, here we go, the device. It automatically picked up my my little 32 gig micro SD. It sees it right here. Boot selection. Okay. This is where I'm going to go and I'm going to click select. Now, before I click select, right? Now, of course, there's an update, but we're not going to do that now. So we are going to navigate to the location where we extracted the image, okay? Which, in my case, it's in my downloads folder in a special folder called downloads_py. So we are going to go to, okay, it was already there, but navigate to, in my case, downloads and then downloads_py. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my image file, right, by left-clicking on it, and then I click open. Nothing to it. There you go. Now it's loaded. The next step is for us to start. So we click start. It's going to warn us, hey, everything's going to be destroyed. Your life is over. Sure. Again, hey, we see that you've already have some data here, and again, you're going to lose it all. Yep, that's perfectly fine. Okay. Now, as you can see at the bottom here, there's a status of what it's doing, okay? When this thing completes, it also does not pop up a message. It just kind of does a little ding sound when it's done, okay? So essentially, the way that you can tell that it's completed is that this menu at the bottom goes back to being usable again. I mean, of course, you could click cancel, which I do not suggest, but you'll see that all these buttons will just become available again, and it'll say that it's ready. So it doesn't say that it has completed. So you need to know that about the completion process. So we will let this run. It's going to take some time. It's writing the image right now, as you could see. So we're going to come back as soon as that image is done writing, and our next step is going to be to plug the micro SD card into our Raspiblitz and then power it up for the first time. So before we get to that, keep in mind at this point, you already used your 7-zip. You want to make sure that Putty was installed, okay? Because Putty is the terminal emulator that we're going to use next to initially connect to our Raspiblitz to kick off the installation. All right. I figured I would start the recording again so you guys could see the end of the process, so you don't get kind of like freaked out if you're not in front of your screen and you don't know what you should be seeing once the image is complete. So here, we're writing image. We're at 94% right now, and there's just a little bit left. So as soon as this is done, we're going to eject the micro SD card, and we are going to head over to our setup, and you guys are going to see we're going to plug it all in and power it up and put the micro SD card and start this install. So let's see what happens. 99%. There you go. See, it goes straight to 100%. Like I said, the menu at the bottom slightly changes and becomes active again. It goes back to start. In my case, Windows has now detected this, so it pops up the boot drive that has now been flashed to my micro SD, but that doesn't matter. So that's it. This process is finished, okay? So we can close out of Rufus, okay? In my case, I'm going to eject that disk, and we are going to stop this part of the screen recording for now, and we are going to head over to our Raspiblitz hardware, put the hardware together, put the micro SD card in, power it up, and get started. Okay, we are back with our hardware. We've got our SSD, okay, which is going to store the blockchain. We've got, and our lightning channels, information and the backups, and pretty much everything that is worthwhile is going to be stored on this. Then we have our fan, which is going to be used to keep our Raspberry Pi 4 cold, or cooler. This is the micro SD that we just flashed our quote-unquote Raspiblitz OS onto, okay? Our power supply, and our LCD screen. So what we're going to do is we are going to put everything together. I will start by putting the micro SD card in. There you go. Next step, we put our LCD screen together. There we go, and you can see how the pins line up. Okay, got the LCD screen on. Now, we need to have a place to store our blockchain. So I'm going to plug that in. Okay, and the next step is we are also going to plug our power in. Now keep in mind, I don't have it plugged into the wall yet. That's coming next, okay? But first we're going to plug in our network adapter. Back here, right? We've got all these parts, they're all connected, okay? And next what we are going to do is we are going to power this up. Now I'm just doing this without the fan just for fun, but you should absolutely, okay, you should have a fan running in this thing. I normally, like on my nodes that are running full time, I just simply plug it in. Like that. I know it's kind of sloppy, but this is just to show you guys the example. And this is definitely going to help keep it run cool. Okay, next step is we plug this thing in. And we power it up. As soon as you plug it in, It powers up. You can hear that fan kicking on already. I'm going to lift this up so I could show you guys what you're seeing on the screen. Okay. There you go. It's going through its little boot up. See if I could put this down and it stays like this. That would be nice. Look at that pretty little Raspiblitz logo. All right, so look, yep, now it's starting, and as you could see there, okay, so here we go. I'm on the startup screen, and it says log into my Raspiblitz with my admin, the admin name, and there's my IP address. So we are going to head back over to our screen, and we are going to launch Putty and then connect to the Raspiblitz with Putty using that IP address. Okay, well, now we are ready to connect up to our Raspiblitz for the first time using a terminal window. So if you followed the instructions so far, you've already installed Putty. If you haven't installed Putty yet, install Putty now. I already have it installed, so I am going to go and start it up. So right away I'm met with this very, very simple window. I leave this as SSH, and for the host name I type, in my case, the IP address of my current Raspiblitz, which gets automatically assigned by my router on the network. So in my case, it's 10.0.0.79. I click open. Now for the first time that you're going to do this, there is a fingerprint key that has to match. All you simply need to do in this case, okay, is you simply just need to click yes. And boom. You are brought right over to the login prompt. Okay, and here we go. We are going to log in as admin. Okay, the default password, lowercase, is Raspiblitz. R-A-S-P-I-B-L-I-T-Z. Enter. Okay, and now we see the first screen. Right now, the Raspiblitz is doing it's a temperature check. We just got to let it go. Goes on for about a minute, and you'll see once we get through the hardware test, we will move through to the next step. So as you can see with my fan, I'm running at 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, you could see it bumps up to 40, 43, but you'll see if you don't have a fan on that thing, or you don't have it sitting in a really cold room, it is going to go up pretty fast. But as long as you're under 60 degrees Celsius, you should be okay. 55 to 60, and you'll start to see some performance degradation. I could tell you I have some other nodes that ran where I didn't put any, any type of ventilation. And these nodes, once they get hot enough, the blockchain won't even stay in sync anymore because the computer, essentially the Raspberry Pi 3 in my case, what happens is that the performance degrades so that it can continue to run. So, but anyways, that's all anecdotal information. Right now we're just watching the screen, waiting for this to end so that we can move to our next step. Okay, and we are ready. Provided all the hardware is correct and it passes our hardware check, we say, hey, Raspiblitz hardware setup looks good, with a little happy face. And we're ready to continue and have fun. Okay, so we are going to click OK. All right, and I get three options here: Bitcoin, shitcoin, and migration from an old Raspiblitz. In this particular case, we are going to do Bitcoin and Lightning, which is our first option. Okay. Now, It's already selected. As you could see, it's in blue, and the OK box is already in blue. Let's say it was cancel that was selected. You would want to hit the tab button to go back to OK. Anyways, let's click enter. All right, we are beginning the startup process. Okay, so we need to give our node a name. Okay, you don't want to be too fancy. You don't want to put any special characters in there. You know, so in my case, I'm just gonna call it. You know, coins Raspiblitz, and I hit enter. Okay, so this is the fun part where we have to choose a password essentially for the node, right? When we logged in as admin, that's our master password. Okay, then we have the blockchain RPC password, and we have our LND wallet password and our LND seed password. Now look, each of those in a true real life situation where you're going to be putting actual Bitcoin on this thing, the reality is each of those passwords should be different if you want to increase the complexity and make it incredibly difficult for, you know, somebody, for an intruder to, you know, hack this device. For the sake of quickness and for the sake of making it simple for somebody to go through this process, I'm just going to make the same password for each of them, which I am suggesting is a bad idea. But like I said, I am just doing this for simplicity. It's really up to you and what you feel most comfortable with. My actual nodes all have different passwords for these things. So, but this is just a test. So here we go. Okay, so I've got to now create a brand new password. I'm doing that. Okay. Okay, so there's our first master password. Here we go. And it tells you right there, for all the users, Pi, admin, root, and Bitcoin. So we know that the next time we log in, we're going to be connecting up as admin. The password is going to be what we just changed it to. Oh, now I've got to do my RPC password. Same thing. In my case. Okay, great. That's been changed as well. Okay, so running the Lightning node with your public IP is common and faster, but might reveal your personal identity and location. You can better protect your privacy with running your Lightning node as a Tor hidden service from the start, which I strongly suggest. But it can make it harder to connect with other non-Tor nodes and remote mobile apps later on. You know what? I don't really care if it makes it harder because at the end of the day, I want to make this as secure as I possibly can out of the box, and I don't want to leak any information. So I am right away going to hit the side arrow, okay, or tab button, whichever one, and I'm going to make it so that Tor network is selected, and I'm going to click enter. Okay, now it's letting me know that the hard drive, or the SSD, right, the solid state disk drive, needs to be formatted. Well, I don't really care because my blockchain is going to be stored there. I have nothing on this right now. So yeah, I'm going to click yes. But to the people who are for some reason using a hard drive that has information on it, you should have backed that information up, and you shouldn't be using it to store your blockchain and your Lightning channel data. So anyways, I'm going to click yes. It's going to format my hard drive, and I wait. Okay, once that process completes, okay, you're going to be met with this new screen. Okay, we need a copy of the blockchain, and now we have to choose how to do it. Okay, so for this particular exercise, I strongly suggest that we do a sync. We self-validate all the blocks. It is going to take the longest, but it's the right way to do it. So that's the way we're going to go with. So I am going to click OK once again. Okay, so here we go again, right? You decided to run your node behind Tor. This was the decision we made before, and validate the blockchain with your Raspiblitz. That's good, but downloading the complete blockchain through Tor can add some extra time, maybe a day, to the process, and adds a heavy load to the Tor network. Your Raspiblitz can just run the initial block download with your public IP, but keep your Lightning nodes safe behind Tor. It would speed up the self-validation while not revealing our Lightning node identity. But for most privacy, we choose Tor sync. Well, look, I am of the security conscious mind. I don't necessarily think that I don't think you necessarily need to do it through Tor, but if you're like me, you're just going to want to start with no possibility or the least amount of possibility of leakage, of your data leaking from the start. So we're going to go the long route. We're going to use our side arrow or our tab key on our keyboard to select the Tor sync mode, and we are going to click enter. Okay, now this process is definitely going to take a while, okay? So we are going to we're going to cut the video at this point, and we are going to come back when we have another screen, another configuration screen that we actually have to do something at. Okay, I'm going to let it run for like another 30 seconds just so you could kind of see what it's doing. But really, at this point, you're starting the waiting game. All right, and we'll be back on the next video when we have a configuration screen to work with. Okay, here's our first stop, LND data and wallet. Okay, so at this point, if we have an old node that we are trying to restore, we would choose the second option, but since the point of this video is to set up a brand new node from scratch, we are going to leave it selected on new node. You'll notice that OK is highlighted, and we click enter. Okay, now we have to enter that password that we created for the LND wallet from before. There I go. Okay, it's generating us a brand new wallet, and now it's showing us what our seed words are. You are going to want to write those down. Okay, and once they are written down, you click OK. Are you sure you wrote down the list? You have a choice to show them again or continue, and of course, in this case, show again is selected, so you are going to hit either the right arrow or the tab key and click continue if you wrote down your words and you're comfortable. Now we're waiting for the next screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so now it's going to continue along with the setup, and we will start up the next segment when we have our next configuration screen. Okay, so we are on to the next screen here, okay? and it's letting us know it's going to do a reboot, and then we are going to continue with the setup. So here we go. I hit enter, and there you go. Now it's going to reboot. Okay, if you're using the LCD screen on your node, you'll see at this point that it has already rebooted, and you're back to the login prompt. So we are going to go and start up Putty once again, and we are going to type our local IP address for the node, and here we go. We want to log in as admin, and the password. Right, this is the password you changed it to, and now we are on to the next step of the setup. So here we could see the Bitcoin service is starting, initial setup is starting, and now we await for our... Okay, so our next step after that previous screen is we now need to input the wallet password once again, which I've just done. There we go. Now the LND wallet is successfully unlocked, and our node is going to continue to do its setup. So at this point, we can see the blockchain has started, and Lightning shows 100%, but that's not really accurate. That number will change after. But anyways, at this point, we are just going to, we're going to wait until the next screen. I just wanted to kick off this part of the video just so that you could see the progress screen. So, catch you on the next step. Okay, guys, we are back. And at this point, we have finished the initial block download. And if I can lift this up, you can see. So if all went well, you're going to have this on your screen. Action required, Lightning restarted. Login for details, LND wallet is locked. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys this very quickly because our next step is going to be to go back to our laptop. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to use Putty to connect up to the Raspiblitz and follow the prompts. So I'll see you guys there. All right, we are back at our laptop or desktop, and I've opened Putty, and we are going to type our IP address, which I've already done. I click open. Now I log in again, and of course by default admin, and I put the password that I created for the master password. And as you could see, we are logging in. It's starting up. Okay, now I've got to go and unlock my Lightning wallet. Now keep in mind, going forward, there is going to be an option where you can do an auto unlock on your LND, and for the sake of ease of use, I would say use the auto unlock. There, I'm going to put that in. So it's going to unlock my LND wallet. I think there's still going to be some sync left to do, though. I kind of remember this from the last 20 times I've done this. So let's see. Let's see what what our next steps are. Okay, so now it looks like the Lightning is still progressing. This is going to take a couple of minutes, and we're going to move on to the next screen. So it looks like our blockchain has synced, and Lightning has also completed its sync. And if you get to the following screen, which I'm going to lift up the node so you can get a better clear shot, this means you've made it and it's up and running. So we are going to do one last little shot of the terminal window, okay, so that you could see. But if your node is up and running, this is the screen that you're going to see on the LCD. And when you connect up through your Putty Terminal, you're going to see a list. It's going to be a menu of options for you to enable in your Lightning node, such as the different services, like the Ride the Lightning web UI, which I strongly suggest everybody enable first so that you have a nice web login. And you can start to fund your Bitcoin wallet, which then can in turn be used to fund your Lightning channels. So let's go take a look at that last screen before we close out the video. I'll try to straighten that out for you. There we go. Okay. All right, people, this is the final screen. So if everything went well, right, like you just saw on the LCD screen in the last video, the node is up and running, okay? And you can see here on the screen, you've got all kinds of different options for your Raspiblitz. Obviously, one of the first ones you're going to want to do is fund your LND wallet. But I definitely suggest after that, heading on over to the deactivate services, okay? And this is where you're going to see all of the different services. Some of these I haven't even tested myself, so I'm super excited to do so. But at this point, you've made it. Your node is set up. Just to give you guys some extra info, that initial block download time from beginning to end took 53.5 hours exactly, okay? And keep in mind, that is with Tor being enabled on the node and for the download. So if you didn't use Tor, it would have gone a lot faster. And if you had a desktop dedicated to a node instead of just using this little dedicated hardware, that would also go faster. But it's just to let you know, that is around, if you decide to go with the maximum security of Tor settings, you can expect the time from beginning to end of your node setup to be approximately 53.5 hours. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for listening to my tutorial, and I hope that it's been helpful. I could tell you that this didn't exist when I did it, so I would have really liked something like this to exist. So hopefully you guys find some value out of this. So keep learning, stay curious, stack your sats, and I'll catch you all on the next vid.